Baby, I'm the boss like I'm Peter Jackson.
That's the intro, huh?
This is no mere ranger. He is Aragorn, son of Arathorn. You owe him your allegiance.
Ez, who is Peter Jackson? Who is Peter Jackson?
Right.
So, I don't know, I had this thought the other day that if Peter Jackson listened to our podcast, I had to stop and think. I'm a little embarrassed to say that I think that he might be of the assumption that I don't like him.
Okay.
And you know what? I wanted to do this video to set the record straight.
Okay.
That assumption, that deduction could not be further from the truth, my friend.
Right.
I think a couple episodes in our reread, I came back and I talked about what a genius he is, how amazing he is, and that's who Peter Jackson is. Okay, it's part of who, but that's not who I'm talking about. All right.
Okay.
That's not who I'm talking about. But I stumbled. I was in this YouTube rabbit hole, and I wound up on an old interview with Peter Jackson, given by Charlie Rose, 2002. And I remembered how cast and crew, they'd say, he's kind of like a Hobbit. He's kind of like a wizard. Yeah. He's this, he's that. And I started thinking, and I'm sitting there watching him, and I forgot how fascinating he is to watch. Okay, and I'm fanboying here. Is that all right?
That's fine. I love this.
Okay, 12-year-old Lane Smith fanboying. And I'm thinking to myself, who he is? He's a Hobbit. No, he's more than that. He's a wizard. Well, yeah, he's both those things, but he's so much more. He's kind of like Bilbo. Like there's a Bilbo essence to him, right? Yeah.
Right.
It's more than that, Ez.
Okay.
He is so much more. I'm just going to say it. Peter Jackson is the Fellowship.
Okay.
Peter Jackson is the Nine, Ez.
Okay.
Peter Jackson, as a filmmaker, as a leader in Middle-earth, is 1 through 9 of that Fellowship, plus a bonus member. Okay?
Wow.
Now, you want me to go into this? I want to know who you think. Who is Peter Jackson to you? What do you want to do? How do you want to do this? Well, I got points laid out.
No, that's fine. Let me give just my initial on this.
Let's hear it.
I guess I was blown away just for years about the story, about how well it was done, and I never really until you get older start to look at like who the person and who the people are behind all of this. You know, and that's sort of as I got older, I was like, wow, okay, I want to know more about that guy, understand where he came from, why is he such a sort of a novelty in a sense, and that is interesting.
Right.
And you sent me that. I had not seen that interview. Watched this hour-long interview. And
it's a good one.
Just him talking about the production, the effort that went into that, the journey, by the way, the years and years he's been on this.
The thing I love about that video, right, is it's fresh. It's fresh in the sense that Lord of the Rings Fellowship had just come out. Right. But at the same time, that man had been working for 6 years to get this thing ready to go, ready to be released. Like it's fresh, but it's not fresh. Like it's fresh on the sense that he's just beginning to see the potential success and rejuvenation that this is going to bring to old Tolkien fans, to people who had never heard of Middle-earth like you and me at that time, you know what I mean? Or you had, but I hadn't. Right. So it's kind of a unique, it's not him now. It's not him now reflecting and being like, well, yeah, that was kind of crazy 20 years ago. It's him right after
in the moment.
The Fellowship, yes, in the moment, reeling from, whoa, okay, wow, I'm going to be an internationally well-known director. Like Wellywood is going to be real. It's going to be real. So it was a very unique moment in time. So anyway, yes, you hadn't seen that. Beautiful, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it was I don't know, like his story, you know, the idea too, here's something, right? By just reading that book, I think, what is he, 17 or 18 when he had read The Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Is what I was gathering from that.
18 years
and then
old. Yep.
To take off and say, I'm going to be, like, I don't know, he talked like it had stuck with him. And again, I'm going to go make a name for myself, do some stuff, be an independent filmmaker. That started well before he had ever read Lord of the Rings. But then to have that story and say, has anyone, this is an amazing story. Has anyone tried this? Or, you know, that to me also was like, wow, this guy is, I don't know.
Two aspects of the story that go into this is he's told this time and time again. It's in the appendices. He says, upon finishing Lord of the Rings, he thought, man, it's a great book. It's a great story. It'll be a great movie someday. I'll enjoy going to watch it.
Yeah.
He said, I never in a million years thought I'd be the one to make it. Okay, that's one point. Another one. So he never, ever thought he'd make it. It's when he was working on the movie The Frighteners, which featured Michael J. Fox. He dies and becomes a ghost, and they did all these ghost effects, and they were creating these ghost effects, and he was like, wow, these look really real. And the thing about Lord of the Rings is it always been like unfilmable in live action. No technology, it hadn't caught up yet, kind of a deal. So in the same way that like Star Wars forced technology to make it real and it's continued to push technology, it's almost like they created the technology, then they realized, oh, we can do Lord of the Rings. Okay. And that's what it was. They saw these ghosts. They're like, Army of the Dead is probably one of the most impossible aspects of that film. We can do that now. We can do that. Yeah. So yeah, it's just amazing. Like the humility. So one of my, you want me to go through these?
Go through them. Absolutely.
So I got them, baby. And I just want you to let me know what you think.
Okay.
His willingness to embrace a quest. Okay.
Yeah.
He wanted it to be made, but he would have enjoyed watching it even if he hadn't made it himself, right?
Right.
He's Frodo.
Yeah.
He's Frodo.
Yeah.
He also bears wounds from the journey, okay? He bears wounds from the journey. And I'll tell you why. Not necessarily from Lord of the Rings, although there were some barbs thrown.
Yeah, yeah.
From his time in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
He has suffered wounds, okay?
Right.
Like our main man, like Frodo. He's loyal. He's loyal to the team he'd already built in his home in New Zealand. Loyalty. He's Samwise.
Right.
He didn't want to go film these anywhere else, right?
Right. No, and I wanted to jump. That was something that stood out to me too, was the fact that he wanted to bring that, home, and that this is where this was going to happen, and everything was riding on this. I guess I didn't realize the stakes. Yeah. For not just the movie. I mean, it almost didn't happen.
No more industry, right?
And then if you don't make, if this isn't successful, you're done, and a lot of other people are done. I mean, this is it was huge. It was definitely like there was a pressure and it
was a quest.
It
was a quest.
Yes.
Yeah. The world for Peter Jackson as he knew it could have greatly changed had this not happened. It not been a success. So I think I think he says it in this interview. He says, that now that this fellowship is a success, people thought that, hey, the keys of Hollywood are yours. Go to LA and finally make movies that you want. And he said, no, I want to stay here. What a Hobbity thing, right? I want to stay here in the Shire and do my own thing. This is my home. I want to make the movies I want here. Find another director who is, I don't know, almost incorruptible, man. I'd say almost incorruptible.
Well, I mean, here's something. One of my favorite directors, George Lucas, also very much like kind of that has like this novel thing happen. This great, really pushes technology and creations and stuff. And then also is not really a studio industry guy, you know, and it is kind of wants to be outside of that just because there's so much creativity going on there. How do you execute stuff? Yeah. I mean, you want that. I mean,
Lucasfilms is like its own offshoot from Hollywood, isn't it? It's the same kind of thing that Peter Jackson did with Weta and with Wingnut Films and his own companies as well. Okay, so he's Frodo, he's Sam, he's Merry. Okay, he's his balance and his ability to bridge diverse groups of people and talents. All right, I see Merry in these most recent chapters. I've seen how Merry is a bridge.
Okay,
he connects some very different people. He enables things to happen. He is a way for our hobbits to get further along than they would have otherwise. I mean, like he facilitates a lot of stuff.
Just on the Merry point. I mean, the Brandywine, Buckland, the Brit, being crossing,
getting out. Yeah, that's right. I'm even thinking like characters within Rohan. He connected a lot of those different individuals. He was kind of like a glue. So anyway, he's got that aspect of Merry. He's also hilarious. He's mischievous. He has a take the piss kind of attitude, and he's brave beyond exception. He's Pippin. Yeah, he's Pippin as well.
Yeah,
he's another Hobbit. I'll get to that Hobbit later because he's kind of sort of outside of the Fellowship in a way. All right, but those are the 4 Hobbits. Now let's get into the magical Istari side of this guy. Right, his ability to create magic, to create cinematic magic that is being copied to this day, that is being compared to this day to everything in the fantasy genre. That part of the reason this burden of the TV show is so large is because of what he and his team built.
Yeah.
And what they brought to life. Okay? Tolkien created an unfilmable story is what it was touted as. You could never turn this into a film, right? Peter Jackson and his team down in New Zealand disproved that. They said, okay, it's unfilmable. We'll film it. And we'll take some Oscars with it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
it's unreal.
Yeah, it really is. And one of the things I thought, again, just as I'm learning more about him and about this whole undertaking, is like it wasn't something that they thought they could, as you say, it wasn't something that could be done. Fantasy hadn't been done well.
Yes.
But then his whole thing, the bridge that he makes is back to the author himself, Tolkien, and to say that really it's more of it's built around mythology.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's not. I'm like, okay, right. So then, like you're able that gives all of your creators a vision. So he is a man with a vision to kind of say,
man with a vision.
Yeah, and that helps a lot.
Something that you've helped point out that I've always kind of mistaken as just kind of happen chance that you've opened my eyes to. This is intentional, right? That Gandalf is an orchestrator. That Gandalf could come out and dominate, but that's not his role. That's not the task he was given. He was given to come and empower others so that they could heal the world, right? And defeat evil. Okay?
Right.
Maybe a bit of a stretch here, but I see Peter Jackson as that same kind of orchestrator, that same kind of is there a good word for manipulator? I don't know. Like his ability to pick these talented individuals or be able to see what their talents are. And okay, so when we were in Hobbiton, right, at the tour, the set in Matamata, one of the facts that has stuck with me both times very vividly is you're at Bag End. You're looking at the beauty of it. You're like, oh my gosh, like this they had to have found this. There's no way someone built this for a movie, right? It's perfect. And you're looking up at the tree and they're like, that tree is actually dead. It was based on the original, which didn't survive. And they're talking about the construction of this tree. Yeah. So Peter Jackson had was notorious for having this stamp, PJ approval, right? A little star had PJ in the middle and it said like approved, PJ approved. And if he said, yep, good to go, boom, you stamp it. Okay?
Right.
These leaves on the tree, painted, hand painted, by the way, put up, ready to go. He went out to the set, looked at him and goes, could be a little different. Not exactly how I imagined. Maybe another shade of green. They took them all down. Or maybe they didn't they took them down, but they had new leaves painted a more appropriate or appealing shade of green. Richard Taylor, right? The magician himself, who in charge of Weta, who created all these creatures and these weapons and this armory, right?
Right.
He himself talks about the power of Peter Jackson to give one or two comments that you're not sure, was that a compliment or was that meant to push me further? So he has this Gandalf essence of, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear to get to another spot. I'm not going to demean you. I'm not going to degrade what you've done. I'm just going to say, if I love something, I'll let you know it. But if it's something that could be improved, I'll find a crafty way to make it known. So he's Gandalf.
Yeah.
He's also, in terms of like, I mean, I know that we could say probably not many of them change that much, but he's unchanging. He's humble. In terms of like, I think his persona, right?
Right. Yeah.
And he's almost kind of I'm going to borrow from the film's vision of Aragorn, sort of a reluctant hero. Okay. Mm-hmm. He didn't originally want to make these films. This wasn't a lifelong ambition.
Right.
This is something that the technology was possible. I love the stories. My team, my friends, everyone, we could do this. Okay. Well, he's also reluctant in the fact that he didn't want to direct The Hobbit. He wanted someone else to take on that film, that trilogy, originally 2 films, so that it felt fresh and different and could complement what he had achieved in the Lord of the Rings. Okay, so very Aragorn that way. His humility, his reluctance to be the man, while not sacrificing confidence though as well, and his sort of unaffectedness, his fame didn't change him. Right, he didn't go to Hollywood. He stayed in New Zealand. He built up an empire in New Zealand, like hiring Kiwis. Like to work on those movies in any respect, it's hard if you're not from New Zealand. Part of that has to do with visas and payments and all that stuff, but
sure, yeah,
it's hard if you're not a Kiwi. So think about what he's done for their economy, man. Like as a nation, like he's been knighted for a reason. He is Sir Peter Jackson, and there you go.
I looking at this fact, couldn't believe it. I saw that. I was like, he's knighted. Let's go,
Sir Peter Neil. Yeah,
that's so cool. Yeah,
okay, yeah. Go ahead, man.
Well, I just like on the Aragorn point, like that's his home. He's not going somewhere else and conquering or whatever. He said, no, this is this is where I'm at. This is my kingdom, and then I need to rule it and grow it and what have you. So yeah,
absolutely. Wow. Okay, so he's also a visionary, right? He was able to see things. He even talked about it in that interview, right? He would be able to see exactly what he wanted right up here. That is a skill that a lot of people don't have, and I think that a lot of us lose as we get older. I feel like that's something that I had at one time, definitely not on a elite level, but an element that I've lost over time because I haven't practiced it, or because I haven't sharpened it, or whatever, or it's just something that's gone away with age. But he has maintained that ability to envision things and know how to execute it to make that vision real. He's far-seeing. He is Legolas, okay? Yep. Peter, what do your elf eyes see? I see a bunch of Oscars staring at me. And millions of happy fans.
Truly. I mean, what was amazing, too, is that, when he talks about how, I imagine it like you're in an editing software, and as you put new images in, it's rendering, and then he's seeing in real time, once he sees this or he puts the stamp on something now in his mind is a part of the film. That, and he was very confident in saying that. He was very much like, no, this is just how it is. This is how I work and how I operate. So yeah,
what a valuable thing too, to know, like, hey, this is my strength. I'm not going to change. This is my strength. Beautiful.
Yes.
So another thing too, crap. Yeah.
With Legolas?
Yeah, I can't remember. It just escaped me. Well, with the whole having a vision beforehand, a plan. I mean, I know people, they do this, right? But to storyboard 3+ hour long films beforehand is crazy. And most directors probably wouldn't be as involved. The great ones are, but most directors probably aren't as involved as he was. He and an illustrator worked to storyboard the entire trilogy before a scene was filmed. They used that time so well before the beginning of filming that it made, when you had the actors and the costumes and the sets and the locations, it was all just kind of like, all right, well, we know what we have to do. There's no second guessing. Here's the map. We can make adjustments, but the meat is there. Let's do it. So think of the pressure that would take off as well. Like, I got a good plan. We know how this is going to look. We know what shots we need. Boom.
Yeah, another point is the idea that when this wasn't going to go, he had a vision. He saw where it needed to go.
Yeah.
And when it was revealed to him that if you continued down this particular path, you weren't going to be able to execute your vision, he had also that will to say, then no. Like, the vision, like the way I see it is this. And because there's a whole bit where the evolution of this almost not being made, almost going down to one film, all that kind of stuff, and sticking to your vision and what you see and saying, no, I know that that's true and that's how it should be done. Yeah. And then for it to turn from, one film to two, then to three, it's just amazing. It's a great story.
I think people saw that too, and they thought, like, if these films are going to be made, they have to be made boldly. Whether they fail or succeed, they have to be taken on. You can't go into filming Lord of the Rings and go, well, I don't know. I mean, we could. I don't know. Well, what do you think? Hadn't really thought of that. So he had that that confidence, man. That oh geez, almost like ethereal presence. So that leads me to my next point, sort of. He's fiery. He's feisty.
Yeah.
Okay. He defends his vision. He defends his homeland. All right. There was talk at the very beginning before The Hobbit happened, and there was a bunch of legality stuff that happened with the rights to the film. Who was going to take all this stuff? It was crazy. But one thing that he said is, if I'm involved, these movies will not be filmed outside of New Zealand. I'm paraphrasing, but that's the message of what he said. Like, if we're going to continue this and I'm involved in any way, it happens in New Zealand. This is Middle Earth. Because they were talking about, hey, we'll go to Czechoslovakia for this. We'll pop over to Dubai for, some desert. It's like all these different things. He was like, no.
Nope.
It happens here. Okay. So his ability to take those stands and people go, all right, well, PJ wants it. And you see now with the show, right? The show was going to film in Scotland.
Yes.
And the problem was they couldn't make use of Peter Jackson's facilities in Wellington because James Cameron's down there using his stuff, right? James Cameron's like, hey, PJ, I need your stuff for Avatar. Cool, man, come on down. I think they did that with the first one anyway, but yeah, so there wasn't room for them.
Right.
So yeah, we'll go to Scotland. Oh, wait. Okay, well, we really don't want to go to New Zealand. We'll build stuff in Auckland. Can Auckland make that happen? Yeah, we can make that happen. Boom. Now the show is going to be filmed entirely in New Zealand. So he set kind of a precedent for, yes, there are beautiful places all over the world. But New Zealand, you've seen a lot of it, and you see how beautiful it is. But you haven't even scratched the surface. You haven't even scratched the surface.
Yeah.
And just the way he's worked craftily to get these films made, which we've talked about already. But he was able to, I'm thinking about the way dwarves would mine, right? The way they would create beautiful things from raw materials. He did the same thing. He took, well, I guess I don't mean the book, because the book is a gem in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
The source material. But then thinking about
that's the Arkenstone.
Yeah, it is. And that's one medium. So how do I translate that one medium to something else, right? I got raw gold. It's beautiful. Or it's the Arkenstone, right? But how do I turn it into a chalice? How do I turn it into a throne? You know what I mean? So he was able to take raw, beautiful goodness in terms of material and craft that into something beautiful on the screen. So he's Gimli. Yeah. He's Gimli.
Yep.
He's true to his dreams, regardless of everyone else's opinions or thoughts.
Yeah.
He's Boromir. He's Boromir.
Wow.
He's true to his dreams. And I got one bonus one. I'm trying not to go too long. I got one bonus one.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the 9, man. That's it. Peter Jackson is the Fellowship.
He's the Fellowship.
All right?
Yep.
He's a hobbit. He's a wizard. He's a man, but he's so much more. And it's actually weird, dude. I was sitting there staring at his face, and I'm like, dude, he's kind of got like Aragorn's hair, and he's got like Gimli's build, and he's got Bilbo's nose, and I think he's got Frodo's eyes. He's got Sam's cheeks. I was freaking out. All right, so he's a bonus one. Just like Bilbo, okay? He freely gave up the burden.
Yes,
he
did.
didn't want to take on the Hobbit films. Everyone was clamoring. They're like, Peter Jackson's got to do it. Peter Jackson's got to do it, right? The masses were. There were some critics who probably were like, well, let someone else do it. He said, I'd like to produce. I'll be involved. I'll help write. But a new director would do this wonders. And that's where I can never say his name. Guillermo del Toro stepped in and was going to take on this Hobbit, at that point, 2 movies, bring his own unique vision to it, help create these cool monsters and sequences. Wasn't able to do it because it got tied up and it took too long, and he wanted to move on to other things. But he is Bilbo. He is a witty, smart-ass riddle master. That's who he is, Ez. That's who he is.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's all I got. He's 9 plus 1 in 1, and I love him. I just want the record to show I love him. I couldn't stop thinking about him the other day. Peter Jackson, if you're watching this, which you're not, if your friends are watching this, which they're not, if your kids are watching this, which they're not, if their friends are watching it, maybe, I love you, man. We love you. Like
We
what
love
you've
you.
created for us, and not just you. When we say you, it's your entire team. Like what they've done, right, is incredible. We talked to them. We've talked to Tammy.
That's true.
We've talked to Tammy Lane. We've talked
Right.
to Shane Runge, and their experiences speak volumes. They whenever we would bring up Peter Jackson, they had nothing but amazing things to say, that he was an incredible leader, that he valued everyone who worked on his team, that he loved input from whether you were up here, you know, Ian McKellen, or you were doing the grunt work, right?
Right.
He wanted input. So
Yeah.
amazing. I felt we needed to set the record straight. I needed to set the record
No,
straight.
I think it's great. I'm glad that we did too, and that he embodies all of the fellowship. And it's this, he's kind of taking, like, there's that, I don't know, man. He this burden. He bore this burden. He set the spirit too with the show, as you say. Now the spirit of Middle Earth is there in New Zealand. It's around his studios, and yeah, I just think it's great. It's just great.
So, I mean, I guess let us know, who is Peter Jackson? Who is Peter Jackson? Leave comments below. Hit like if you want. Subscribe to our channel. Check out all this extra stuff. We're having fun doing it. We love it. It's so exciting. But who is Peter Jackson to you? That's what we got to ask. All right? And as always, remember, tell him.
Frodo lives, my friend.